Yeah, I began to get really get the idea about late 1978, early 1979. I was called to Washington, a meeting at the Army and Navy Club with some retired admirals and generals, and read the Riot Act on an African president that they wanted me to corrupt, and if I couldn't do that, they were going to take him out. And it became very, very clear to me. Up until that point, I'd been an economic hitman for about 9 years, and like everybody else, I figured that the CIA was involved in the Allende and Mossadegh, but it was all intellectual to me. And I would use it sometimes in arguments with these presidents. Oh, remember what happened to Mossadegh? Remember what happened to Arbenz? But, I didn't have any personal involvement. And then suddenly I'm in these meetings in Washington with these generals and admirals, and I'm hearing this stuff. And then I'm beginning to see the tremendous pressure that Roldos of Ecuador and Torrijos of Panama are under, and then they get assassinated. And I know there's no denying anymore, and that's when I get the hell out immediately. I quit on a day's notice because I really, really got it. And it made me absolutely sick and miserable, and I hated myself and had to get out.
And then a lot of good old boys say, yeah, we're going around killing people to take over. Now they're doing it in America with Northcom. Now they're taking over. What about government-sponsored terror? We know they've done that many times, the Tonkin incident, the Liberty, and others. 9/11, other events came out. Cy Hirsch reported Cheney wanted to attack our own ships, but it got vetoed. What about government-sponsored terror? I mean, these generals are getting pretty ruthless.
Well, look at the general that has just been given command of Afghanistan. I guess he hasn't been approved yet, but the one that's been proposed from Special Forces, Special Operations, he's on record of having been involved in the torture in these places and also having given the command to have people around the world assassinated, what we call terrorists assassinated. I mean, there's no justification for that. Alex, this whole business of terrorism is an interesting word. It's not an ism. There's no relationship between the terrorists in Colombia, the FARC people, and the terrorists at Al-Qaeda. They're totally separate.
It's anybody that resists the globalist agenda. Stay there. One more segment. MySolarBackup.com. A lot of things can cut off your electrical power. Hurricanes, snow, ice storms, global warming, gremlins can chew off your electrical wires. A lot of things can happen. And so instead of sending all your money to Al Gore and carbon taxes, I suggest you take your own power needs out of the control of that control freak and go to MySolarBackup.com. The degenerate control freak, blood-sucking parasites of government and the New World Order don't own the sun yet, folks. So make your move now. MySolarBackup.com, the great power source, 800 watts of power on demand. The solar panel, the system, the charger, the batteries, all of it. Great little system. Get a bunch of these, run your whole house. MySolarBackup.com, 877-327-0365, 877-327-0365.
Is that when they are put it on the spot and they are in some particular very big media outlet, they are not outspoken about 911. I don't know why, but they keep for themselves, and they know that the 911 is a direct relation with our government and our military. And if they have already talked about that clearly and help it to open up the mind of all the people in the United States, with whom I am a citizen, probably the result will be different. So I don't know why. I still expect to know why the people like him and like others.
Okay, Solomon, I understand your question. I want to be able to get a response. John Perkins was just talking about government staging events, but I don't ever blame people who politically don't go as far as I do or don't totally agree with me. As long as they're on the side of the good guys exposing corruption, we should focus on the establishment who's totally against us instead of always fighting with each other about who agrees with this or who agrees with that. I don't know what John's position is on 9/11 being an inside job or not. John Perkins?
Well, my standard answer to that is I don't have any inside information, and I write books based on my own personal experience. I like to write about things I know. I know
exactly
what happened to Roldos of Ecuador. He was assassinated. I know that Torrijos was assassinated. I was there. Now, 9/11, I don't have any inside information. But what I will say, and I always say, is I have an extremely difficult time believing that a guy with a walkie-talkie from a cave in the Himalayas executed this by himself. I don't understand why the Pentagon had a hole blown in it and no heads rolled, no generals lost their jobs, no videos ever been produced to show anything. I think it's extremely suspect. I can't, it's really hard to believe that anything like that happened without inside help. But I can't say that from a position of having any personal knowledge. That's why
Absolutely. You choose to go off what you know, and you went to the big military, and you've named the generals and people in your book. And you've had a lot of courage. We appreciate you. Let's take another call. Julio, quick question from Illinois. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How are you? Alex, first-time caller. I appreciate your work. I saw the Obama deception. I love it. And, John, thanks for what you're doing. I saw the Second Zeitgeist. I realize your work and what you have done, and thank you for informing us, the American people, about what you've done. My question to you, John, is what's going on right now in Afghanistan and Iraq and in Iran? Do you think that we have economic hitmen going to Iran, going to Afghanistan, and trying to bribe them before they bring in the jackals, as you mentioned, and our military? All
right, we'll get that answer on the other side. We got 2 minutes left with him. He's got another interview coming up. Quick break. Come back with 2 or 3 minutes with John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. We'll get his answer on the other side. I mean, I'll go ahead and steal the thunder. It's on record. They've got not just money in Iran. They're staging terror attacks there publicly, and Iran sits there and takes it. But we'll get John Perkins' take on that on the other side. JohnPerkins.org, Infowars.com.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Again, get on his free mailing list at johnperkins.org to find out the latest when his new book, Hoodwink, is coming out exactly, he says, in November. And just really excited to have John Perkins back up with us. Hopefully he'll come back in the next few months because this economic crisis is so serious. We went to break earlier. I never asked that question, or I never got the answer to it. So in closing, answer the fellow's question about are there economic hitmen in Iraq and Iran? And then the final point is, do we, in your opinion, have a chance to beat these people?
And first question, lots of economic hitmen and jackals in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan. I know some of them. I'm email communication with some of them. But assassins and economic hitmen both doing our dirty work over there. And yes, I think we have an incredibly good chance of getting rid of this, of turning this whole thing around, Alex. That's what my new book coming out in November is about. And again, if people go to johnperkins.org and sign up for my newsletter, we'll be announcing the time of that book. The working title is Hoodwinked. And it really gets into this, that I think we are at a threshold in human history right now where things are in such entropy that we're going to come out of this either under a terrible dictatorship, the most global dictatorship ever in our history, or we're going to come out on top, and I'm fighting for us coming out on top. And I think we all need to get in there together. We have tremendous power as individuals, perhaps more now than ever, because in essence, this new empire is being created through economics, through the way we shop, through the way we live, through the people we watch on television, through the messages we listen to on radio and television. There's a classic struggle going on right now.
So it's insidious that it's not an open military threat, and that's its strong suit, but it's also its Achilles heel because we have inherent power in the system. So you're saying you believe they are overplaying their hand and we've got a good chance on bringing this dragon down?
I think they have overplayed their hand. I mean, that's what, there's a huge revolution going on in Latin America. 10 countries representing more than 80% of the population of South America have voted in very left-leaning, liberal, progressive, whatever you want to call it, presidents that are saying no to this. And I think in our last election, when we elected Obama, we said no. Whether Obama's going to go along with that or not is another question, but I think that's the symbolism, that's the message that was sent. People are waking up. They woke up big time in Latin America. They're waking up in the Middle East. And I think we've woken up here, but we need to keep waking up wider and wider and taking more action and not expect that Obama's going to do it for us. We have to do it. You know, we didn't end slavery in this country because Abraham Lincoln found himself in the White House. We pushed and pushed, and we elected a man who we knew was going to end slavery. Women didn't get the right to vote because Woodrow Wilson was for women's suffrage. He wasn't. After he was elected, the women went out on the streets. Everywhere that man went, he was followed by women pickets with huge signs that said, why should we fight for democracy in World War I in Europe when half of our own country doesn't have the right to vote. We didn't get out of Vietnam because Richard Nixon was anti-war. He wasn't. We got out of it because the people demanded it. Of course, we were also losing the war like we are in the Middle East today. But the people demanded it. We took to the streets. We've got to demand it now. But today it's easier because, in a way, we can demand it by the way we shop as much as anything, as you pointed out. We have tremendous control. And for far too long, we've let these people get away with convincing us that what we really want is the cheapest tennis shoes and T-shirts, even though slaves are making them. And it
destroys our industry. It destroys us. It's a gun that shoots both ways. John Perkins, I'm going to let you go. You got another interview coming up. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you so much. The website is johnperkins.org, and the book is Confessions of an Economic Hitman. John Perkins, the new book, working title, Hoodwink, coming out in November. We'll talk to you soon, sir.
Alex, you're beautiful. Keep up your great work.
Thank you. You are too, my friend. Good to have you on. We appreciate your courage. There goes John Perkins.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.